Hello, you festive freeloaders. I'm Timstradamus, and welcome to another Friday. Joining me as always is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Top of the morning to you, Timstradamus. I feel like you should have said "you filthy animals" at the end.
We're getting close to that time.
I love Home Alone. Timstradamus,
Voyse?
would you like to hear a joke?
Yes.
What reindeer game do reindeer play at sleepovers?
Let me think about this. I think maybe they might play a game where they try to run over grandmas. There's a song devoted to it, okay? It must be real.
No.
Oh.
It's not Grandma got run over by a reindeer. It's Truth or Deer.
Truth or Deer.
Interestingly enough, since we're talking about Grandma got run over by a reindeer and it's reminding me of movies, did you know that the highest grossing film is the Grinch movie? The animated one.
Really?
Yeah, the highest grossing from 2018.
There's no way that's true. With Cumberbatch?
Yep.
How is that the highest grossing movie? Is it the Christmas movie?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Highest grossing Christmas.
Oh, okay. I'm like, there's no way.
My bad. I thought you realized we were talking about in the season.
Now I do.
Well, the runner up to that was actually Home Alone, and they had that from 1990 up until then.
That's interesting. Fun Christmas fact. For any new festive freeloaders, Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
So, Voyse.
So, Timstradamus,
what have you crafted for me this morning?
Well, I found a prepared tea pack that I thought sounded really interesting and up your alley. It's a green tea that has flavorings of pomegranate and raspberry.
Oh, yeah.
Is it better than my normal stuff?
No.
That's right. But seriously, what would you rate it?
It's definitely a 4 out of 5.
Oh, delicious. Well, while you go ahead and enjoy your morning cup of brew, why don't we go ahead and delve into these stories? For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to be my friend's alibi so he can cheat on his girlfriend? Throwaway. I, male 21, have known my friend Matt, male 21, since we started college. We're in the same program and have been roommates since day one. Overall, I'd say Matt is a great guy. However, he has a terrible tendency to cheat. Throughout college, I think Matt had 5 to 7 different girlfriends, and each of those relationships ended because he would cheat. Back in January, he started dating his current girlfriend, Jen, female 21, and has been with her far longer than any of the other previous relationships. From my interactions with Jen, I know she's a wonderful person. She's very polite, beautiful, and clearly devoted to Matt. For the past few weeks, Matt has also developed a close relationship with his anatomy lab partner, Cindy, female 21. It's become pretty clear to me and my other housemates, Kyle, male 21, Robert, male 22, Omar, male 20, that there is some romantic relationship between them. We've even all met Cindy as she came by our house a few times. Long story short, Matt has told me and the other guys that things between him and Cindy are moving fairly quickly, and that Jen is completely in the dark about this. He told us that, for the foreseeable future, he'll be spending a few nights hanging out at Cindy's place. Here's the issue. Jen and her roommates don't live that far from us, about a 7-minute walk. So there's a good chance she'll come by looking for him, according to Matt. Therefore, he wants us all to make excuses for his absences and potentially reassure Jen that he isn't up to anything bad. Kyle and Robert are fully on board with this as they consider it the bro code. Omar is fully against this, and while he has not said he'd tell Jen, he has refused to lie for Matt and has been urging him to end things with Cindy. I would say I'm more neutral. I don't think what Matt's doing is appropriate, but I don't think it's my place to tell Matt how to manage his relationships. I told him that while I wouldn't seek Jen out and tell her what's going on, I wouldn't lie to her either about where he is and instead say I don't know. We all argued about this for a while, and the general gist of things is that Kyle, Robert, and Matt all think I'm being a bit of an ass for not being more cooperative. Aside from this, I don't think there is really much I can do. Moving to somewhere else is both economically and logistically unfeasible, so I think trying to avoid stirring the pot is my best bet. Am I the a-hole?
Oh, bro code. So we'll start with this. I'm Team Omar. Because he's the only one in this story that I feel isn't an a-hole.
The untold Twilight Saga.
Hey, I get it. At that age, especially when you're housemates with people, bro code is a thing. No differently than I've heard girl code. It's a thing when you start getting around groups of people that you enjoy hanging out with, even if they have some not so great values, you sometimes get pushed into that peer pressure of keeping secrets. The fact that you're saying, I don't want to get involved, I can understand. But by you saying that your answer is going to be, I don't know, you still got involved. You still know what your friend is doing behind his girlfriend's back. So that makes you wrong. And your friend for cheating. He should have just broken up with the girl. He put all of you, your entire house, in this weird little sitcom drama, worrying about this girl dropping by and then all of you having to basically lie for your friend's bad choices.
Well, the consensus on Reddit was split somewhat, with a majority going for everyone sucks here, except for Omar.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
And petering into you're the a-hole because you're technically still allowing it. Some individuals put not the a-hole because you're trying not to get into it. However, personally, I think everyone sucks except for Omar as well. It's so difficult because once you're dragged into a situation that you don't want to be in, it really goes to show you what kind of person you truly are. Are you the type of person where you're going to allow someone to skew up what you think is morally correct because of something that they want? And I think that's where our OP is hitting into this situation. You don't want to be in it, but you technically are.
Those are the type of decisions that will grow to shape you as you get older. When you start picking the wrong decisions, it gets easier to do it every next one.
Well, surprisingly, I have an update for this.
Oh, please be good.
Oh, let's go ahead and go for a journey.
Oh no, Omar, not like this.
Update. I'll start this update by saying Jen found out last night. Like Matt predicted, she came over to our house Tuesday evening. I saw her pretty quickly since I was also coming back from buying some food. She asked me if I knew where Matt was, and I said I didn't know because I genuinely didn't know at the time. She mentioned how he wasn't responding to her texts and that she was worried about him, and I felt pretty bad hearing that. Kyle, who were inside, came out at this point and said that Matt was in his anatomy lab, and then reassured her that he'd contact her once he was finished. She didn't seem entirely satisfied with that answer, but thanked us anyway and left. Once she was gone, Kyle told me that Matt was actually on a date with Cindy. Since Matt sometimes brings Cindy over, he'll text the house group chat before they come over to ensure that Jen isn't around. He did this on Tuesday night, and Kyle did alert him that Jen had stopped by looking for him, so he stayed over with Cindy on Tuesday night. Wednesday evening, only Omar and I were home. Kyle was with his own girlfriend, and Robert had an exam. Around 7 p.m., we got a text on the group chat from Matt saying he plans on bringing Cindy over around 8:30, and he asked if Jen came by. I told him that I hadn't seen her, and things went on as usual. I'll add that Omar has refused to respond to these specific text messages from Matt, so there was an expectation on me to clarify if Jen was here or not. A little after 8 p.m., Jen comes by with one of her friends, Carly, female 21. They asked us where Matt was since Jen hadn't been seeing him a lot lately. Before I could even say anything, Omar told them to come back after 8:30, and Matt should be home. They left, and I did argue with Omar about his decision to tell them to come back, since it was inevitably going to cause drama, but he didn't care. I did text Matt and told him about Jen potentially returning, but since he was driving, he didn't read the message. At this stage, I gave up trying to contact Matt and went to my room. A little after 8:30, Matt walked in with Cindy, and not that long afterward, Jen and Carly returned. Omar let them in. Long story short, there was a lot of Jen yelling and Matt lying and apologizing. I didn't bother coming down since I could hear it all from my room. After about 10 minutes of this, Jen and Carly left. Matt sent Cindy home after this and was pretty pissed at what happened. I reminded him that I sent him text messages, which he now saw, and Omar played dumb, acting like he didn't see Matt's message about him asking if Jen was home, but confirmed to him that he told Jen to come back after the first time she came because he didn't think Matt was dumb enough to go out with Cindy 2 nights back to back. Robert and Kyle came home after this point, and I filled them in on what happened. There was definitely some tension in the house this morning, as Matt thinks this all could have been avoided had Omar been more helpful. He also partially blames Cindy for wanting to come over so often. Overall, Matt doesn't really seem to care that Jen found out and broke things off with him. He said that he'll try apologizing one more time, as he does prefer Jen to Cindy, and if she doesn't accept, he'll leave things as they are. As for Cindy, Matt has already told Kyle, Robert, and me this morning that he plans on ending things with her after the December exam season. He says that he wants to be single again by New Year's so he can have a fresh start. Kyle and Robert think this is pretty hilarious considering how much trouble he got into to be with her. Things have ended more smoothly than I thought, and I have made it abundantly clear to Matt to keep me out of his relationship woes. I have also asked Carly how Jen was holding up this morning, as we share a class together. As expected, Jen was very upset about the entire ordeal, and she and her friends consider everyone at our house aside from Omar to be complicit and awful. Quick update. Kyle texted the group chat. His girlfriend knows, and she isn't happy.
Well, that bled out into one person having a problem into the entirety of that house having a problem.
Except for Omar.
Omar Thanos snapped that entire situation.
Come back after 8:30.
Inevitable. Well, that's what happens when, again, you are no better than the company you keep. It had a ripple effect throughout all of this. And they all have themselves to blame because you accepted it. Matt is not a good person. And I didn't realize how dependent he was upon our OP, right? It wasn't just a leave me out of your drama. It was, by the way, my drama can only exist if you help me.
Tell me when Jen comes.
I didn't realize this was so deep and how much control Matt has over the house. You just started so much drama for zero reason. And in that case, you violated bro code. You put you before us, not a bro.
Well, the way that I see this, Omar is a hero. And I gotta say, he made sure to end that drama quickly just by letting people know, come at the right time.
Omar, you little weasel.
But he didn't say anything. He just said, Matt will be here after 8:30.
I mean, he had an escape plan too. He's like, hey, look, how are you so dumb to bring her over 2 nights in a row? That's not on me, Matt. That's on you.
Dumb.
You see how he you say he played that all out?
Oh, man.
Boy.
Well, let's go to our next story, and it's still in college. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend, 29 female, that her college's open mic is meant for Zoomers rather than older students like her? I, 29 male, am engaged to this girl named Maya, 29 female. I love Maya so much, and we're getting married this coming spring. She's had a rough life, and although she has a degree, she just barely graduated with a 2.0 GPA from college back when she was 24. This was due to the fact that she was both a drug addict and a hikikomori during her college years, and it took her 6 years to graduate from a 4-year program. I met her when she was in the early stages of recovery, and now she's a happy, normal person with her whole life ahead of her. It's worth mentioning that Maya is a locally successful musician, and she plays the guitar. She's a bit of a wizard at the guitar, and she really shreds. It's her number one passion, and she plays both solo and with a band. Starting this semester, My girlfriend has gone back to college to take remedial courses because she wants to go to grad school to study applied math, so I applaud her on her efforts to better herself. Her college has a weekly open mic at the campus restaurant where anyone can come up on stage and perform in a time slot. So I've recently found out that my girlfriend has been performing at these open mics for the past few weeks. When she told me about this, and she told me about how happy it makes her feel to perform in such an intimate setting, enjoying her second chance at enjoying a normal college life, to paraphrase her own words, I kind of cringed and told her that she was being cheesy. I told her that these kinds of open mics are meant for 19 to 20-year-old Zoomers, rather than the semi-professional musicians like her. Looking back, it's an odd thing for me to nitpick about, but I nevertheless believe that this is the truth. When I told Maya that she was being so cheesy and that she's too old for that kind of stuff, I could tell that her heart was sinking, and she just sort of made these angsty, embarrassed noises. Later on, I hit up Maya's Instagram page, and I saw that she posted about what I said to her about the open mic. Her post was along the lines of, "Who knew something so small can hurt so much?" I was mortified and, honestly, furious that she would embarrass me by posting about our relationship spat so brazenly. And I got into a bitter argument with her that left her crying. By this point, we've made up, and we still love each other so much. Am I the a-hole?
That's a terrible story. And I understand that it might sound like a little thing, but what you just told me was because they're still not married, correct?
Correct.
Your fiance found something at 29 that made her genuinely happy, and she enjoyed it, and she told you how much it meant to her, and then you belittled her for it, telling her that she was too old to participate in something. On top of that, all you did was explain how your fiance is unworthy of where she's at right now in life. You went into great detail about how she just got her education. She was a 2.0. But you also know what she was struggling through at that time. But just based off of those things, it sounds like you have a pretty low opinion of your fiance. From what it sounds like, it's really easy for you to insult her. And is that really love? When you can come to a forum and completely attack her for who she is just because of something that brought her joy? To make her unworthy of her station right now? I can't get behind that. That blows my mind. Because again, I feel like this is coming purely out of jealousy. And that's not love. That's not real love at all. That's control. You are definitely an a-hole. I'm so shocked that, because does he say, did she continue to go to this thing even though he had those problems with it?
He doesn't say anything about that.
You just feel bad for these type of relationships.
Hands down, yes. Well, the consensus on Reddit is that our OP is definitely the a-hole. In fact, you're right. He does undress her. He essentially, it's like he's calling her low-key stupid and just barely getting her degree, as well as letting us know a lot of her private struggles. Why you would go ahead and do that is really bad. Now, I would just like to say, I will read what one commenter said and our OP and their response. So a commenter said, "Honestly, why is she even with you? You sound horrible and this whole post reeks of condescension." Our OP responded and said, "Way to get so personal. I'm not exaggerating when I say that Maya would be completely lost if it weren't for me."
Oh, man, you are terrible.
I will say that after truly mulling over their entire post and then reading that comment, OP is just a very bad person. And I cannot get over this feeling that I feel very sorry for Maya. I hope that Maya finds the strength to hold her ground. You're allowed to enjoy the things in life that you enjoy. Music should be one of those where you should be able to share it anywhere where it's okay for you to play an instrument.
This is the thing that irks me the most. I didn't hear him once say, "I'm taking accountability for the corner I pushed my fiance into." All I heard him say was, "She pissed me off because she told everyone about our personal business." When you're in that type of relationship, it's not a relationship.
Well, I hope Maya finds her way out of bad situation. And let's go to our next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my friend and her newborn on the side of the road? I, 29 female, was driving my friend, 30 female, back from a wedding with her newborn baby through Arizona. We were on one of those 2-lane highways, and I was passing big rigs that were going too slow. She was rudely critiquing me and telling me that my driving was unsafe, and I told her to stop whining or I would make her and her baby get out. She then continued to do it, so I pulled over into a breakdown area and told her to get out or I wouldn't drive. I offered for her to leave her baby with me, but she refused, so I kicked him out too. Apparently, her phone was at 5%, and she wasn't able to get a ride for a few hours before she used some random person's phone to call an Uber, which costed a lot. She constantly is rude about my driving when I am simply trying to drive efficiently. She is now insisting that I pay her for the Uber and apologize, but I refuse because it's her fault that she got kicked out. Am I the a-hole?
Well, this one's probably maybe the spiciest spicy meat the boo of our episode. I can't tell anymore. They're all pretty bad. So, how old is OP?
Our OP is 29.
Okay.
And her friend is 30.
And they go off to a wedding, and her friend has a baby.
Newborn baby.
Newborn. Now, on the way home from the wedding, I guess, and everyone's been in a car with someone who likes to drive a certain way, and then there's always another person that doesn't like them driving that way. I'm guessing our OP's friend didn't have any other way of transportation at the time, so OP, being a good friend at the time, said, hey, I'll make sure you get from point A to point B safely with a newborn baby. All right, I don't know if she's driving erratically or not. Everyone's going to say they're a perfect driver when they're telling the story. And I don't mind people having a heavy foot as long as it's safe and within the limits. Now, you can understand where the friend might be a little more worried because she has a newborn. All right, so it scares her a little bit more.
She's probably still going through a lot of hormonal changes, though. That worry is probably going straight through the roof.
So she's telling her concerns to OP that she's driving too uncomfortably for her. Fair enough. This doesn't hit the OP the same way it should. A person at 29 would go, all right, I know that probably bugs me that I'm hearing you critique my driving, but I also should understand that you have a newborn in the car with us and we're just trying to safely get home. So let me try to figure out how I can make us both comfortable in this situation, because the answer to this question is never to abandon someone on the side of a highway.
With a newborn baby to boot.
And she knows that phone was at 5%. I'm actually shocked at the danger this OP is willing to put her so-called friend in.
Do you want me to shock you a little more?
Oh, maybe, please. Not really, but you're going to shock me.
So our OP said in a comment, the baby's father died in a car accident when my friend was pregnant. My friend was actually in the accident too, but survived with minimal injuries thanks to the angle of the accident. It was a drunk driver running a red.
Well, you did it. You shocked me some more. So she knows where our friend is coming from. And because that is a newborn baby, that death didn't happen all that long ago.
Correct.
You are a bad person. Genuinely. You know what your friend's been going through. You know what she's been through. You put your friend in a lot of danger. You are the a-hole.
Well, the consensus on Reddit is that our OP is definitely the a-hole. In fact, many individuals were saying, look, aside from you just being an awful person, the next time you ever offer a ride to someone, that you know where you're leaving them is dangerous, because so many things could have happened to her with her newborn child in the middle of nowhere with no battery life to her phone. If something could have happened, she couldn't call 911 properly. Drop her off at home and tell her you cannot take her or drive her anywhere, because having that on you, the criticizing and the worries and all of that is not worth the effort. That would have been the better way to go. If you as a driver cannot handle taking someone from point A to point B safely, then you shouldn't have offered it to begin with. Well, let's go to our last story of the day and see what gift I can give you from under the Grinch's tree.
No, I just want a good one. Where's all the good ones?
Am I the a-hole for making my daughter delete her inappropriate Instagram profile pic? I, 48 male, have a very intelligent, compassionate daughter named Charlotte, 17 female. Back in May this year, when Charlotte was in grade 11, she went on a school trip to Vancouver for an athletic event. Her team had a lot of downtime in Vancouver, which is nice, and she enjoyed herself and took a lot of pictures of her experience. I am one of those conservative dads who has reasonable expectations of what his daughter is and is not allowed to wear in his house. I rarely allow bare shoulders, no exposed midriffs, that sort of stuff. Easy peasy, nothing too overbearing. I was surfing my daughter's Instagram page a few weeks after she got back from Vancouver, and I saw all her pictures of her trip. I was embarrassed because 90% of those pictures, Charlotte was dressed up in nothing more than a skimpy tank tops and gym shorts. Her new profile picture was taken in Vancouver, and in that picture, although she did have her shoulders covered up, she was wearing a blouse that had all of her lower buttons undone, so her midriff was fully exposed. I went up to Charlotte's room and opened the door without knocking. I was a little bit angry, but I did my best not to look scary. I told Charlotte that her pictures that she took in Vancouver are simply not appropriate, and I wanted to see her delete all of them. She just looked at me smugly, and she told me that while the dress code applies under my house, my rules, she was not in my house while she was in Vancouver, so the dress code meant nothing. While I was in Charlotte's room, she was dressed up in a low-cut camisole and her running shorts. I assumed she was changing to put on something more appropriate. And I let her know that out there in the real world, a creep would see her wearing her camisole, and he'd probably go home and use that sight to pleasure himself. That's the harsh truth. When I told Charlotte this, she just had the most disgusted, repulsed look on her face, and she began crying, and she told me, "I'm feeling really vulnerable right now." I had to shush my daughter, and although she cried for a long time, I did manage to get her to stop crying. And just because I felt bad for her, I only made her delete her profile picture, not the rest of her pictures. Am I the a-hole? Looking back, I should not have been so explicit, but I haven't apologized to my daughter yet because I don't think I was lying when I said any of that. I told her the truth.
What the elf are you doing to our Christmas episodes? So I guess we'll get into this. OP has a way he looks at the world, and unfortunately, he projects them onto his daughter. Now, I understand having your values and all the things under your roof. You can run your house the way you want to. That's the way it works. I can get that. How old is our OP and his daughter? I think he's 48.
He's 48. She is 17.
Okay. Now, I think he leads this story off by saying she's a great, smart person.
Yes, intelligent and compassionate.
There you go. He has a certain dress code that he wants her to adhere to.
Nunnery, yes.
Yeah. Regardless of whether or not I feel like something should or shouldn't be, it's not really my place in someone else's home.
Correct.
I can get that part. But it sounds like his control that he has had so far has been smothering, to the point where now your daughter is learning how to skirt around the rules because you made that environment. She says it. That didn't happen under your roof. It happened in Vancouver. When you do those type of things to your kids, all you're teaching them to do in values is do it not around you. And there is one more thing on top of this that bothered me. You say that you barged into your 17-year-old daughter's room without knocking. That shows me enough about your relationship and how you don't have boundaries with your daughter. There should always be a knock. Your values go out the door, to me anyway, when you don't have basic respect for the people you live with. In my opinion, you are the a-hole. I get it though. I will say this. It is your house. You can run it the way you like. I'm not arguing with that as a parent.
Well, the consensus on Reddit is that our OP is definitely the a-hole. And and many individuals came out calling him creepy. The whole thought that your post is to sexualize and objectify women and to essentially teach your daughter that that's all that the world is doing is a really creepy notion of a father trying to do that so that you can keep your daughter in line, especially when your daughter's 17. She's on the cusp of being her own adult to be able to make her own decisions outside of a home. Now, I will say, for me, I think when he says, I was a little bit angry, but I did my best not to look scary. How many times have you barged into your daughter's room and enforced your rules on her? Because, and I hate to say this, quite like it, for a girl to say that she is disgusted and repulsed, right? And feeling vulnerable about her father saying that what she's wearing right now is a sight that men would f off to, essentially. I can't imagine a 17-year-old busting down into tears like that, unless what he was saying was something that was way more vulgar than just that. For her to break down and cry. Now, I know there are some women that are emotionally more sensitive, but when he comes into that room, I don't get the feeling that she's that sensitive because she looks at him and by his words says that she smugly smiles at him. So she's got a lot of boldness in her to do that. However, what you had to do to break down that boldness to make her cry wasn't a simple guys are going to go ahead and pleasure themselves because of how you look. What you said was way worse than that. That is my gut feeling. And it might be assumption, but it's an assumption that makes sense, not what the OP is putting down. And that's what a lot of people seem to have put down. There is more to this than what you are leading on for your daughter to have that kind of reaction. And what you have done is build a very unhealthy relationship.
Oh, yeah. She'll be doing things in her life as she gets older because of him. How many times have you heard this type of tale where you ask a friend why they did something? And one or two things when they're younger. They go, I was young and dumb. And then the other answer was, I did it because I wanted to get back at my parents. How many times has that been a thing?
I, unfortunately, can be a prime example of that. As you know, Timstradamus, my parents are divorced. My father was very lenient when it came to his rules. You know what is right and you know what is wrong. I shouldn't have to tell you what the right thing to do is. That's how my father always ran his house. But my mother, it's very much her rules, her way, period. You know that. She's my mother. The one thing that I can tell you, it really does cultivate where I had no open relationship, especially when it came to communication on talking with my mother. I was more comfortable speaking with my father because I knew whatever information I would give him or advice or an experience, something bad that's happened, it would never be met with any kind of guilt because I didn't follow a rule. It would be met with, now that you've experienced that, what do you take away from that situation? It was always something to learn. And I appreciate that type of teaching. Where on my mother's end, it was, since you didn't follow my rule, you see what happened. And it taught me I could never be honest and open with my mother. And I feel sorry for other relationships because I know that there are some families that have both parents that are just like that. At least I had two parents with two different parenting styles. And I feel like I'm blessed enough to have more perspective.
When you do raise kids in that fashion, you're not really giving them a chance to grow. And like you said, giving the tools to a child and having them understand that there are outcomes to the choices they make is important, but they have to be able to make those choices themselves and go through those mistakes, or they don't learn, they don't grow. I can just hope for the OP that he's taken some of the advice he got from people. Well, was that our last story?
That was our last story. The snuggle was real.
The snuggle? What's the snuggle?
The struggle. It's a pun.
Oh, Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We regularly post on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We also want to send all of our appreciation to our patrons from their head to their mistletoe for all of their support.
Yes, we love and appreciate every single one of you.
We would also love to hear your viewpoints in the comments section below. Which one of these made you feel like putting coal in the stocking?
Every single one.
It was pretty bad, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, listeners, I'll leave you off with a question. What made you smile today?
Yes, I love hearing what makes everybody's day.
Yeah, it actually puts a smile on our face when we hear about what puts a smile on your face.
Well, what's putting a smile on my face right now is the fact that I'm going to be making some sugar cookies again. My third or fourth batch now.
They've all been really good.
Yeah, I've been trying all kinds of different recipes.
And what's putting a smile on my face is I get to take off this hat.
Is it hot?
Yes.
I bet you your hair's really messy.
Yeah. And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.